to get a little more. I'm going all the way up. Everything I do, man, need to be major.
Into Sean Elliott. He fires the three and hits it.
Can I get a little more?
Just like, it makes me so happy to see it now. Yeah, here he is, 12-year vet, Sean Elliott, calls games for the Spurs, of course, at the moment. How are you doing, by the way?
I'm doing great.
Yeah?
Yeah, how are
Thanks
you?
for doing this.
Hey, it's my pleasure when I'm
superstar.
on the set with you. Superstar. Come on now, woman.
This is big. By the way, I was hoping we would come in here and we'd talk about Wemby last night and Austin and what a showcase, and then we get the bad news yesterday. So have you talked to him? Like, how's he taking it? How's the team?
I haven't talked to him.
Okay.
You know, I talk to Victor when I see him around in the locker room, things like that. You know, things like that. I'm not one to, you know, have a real close personal relationship with players.
Right.
Now I kind of try to stay out of their way, but knowing Victor, I know that he's got to be really disappointed because he's a competitor. He wants to get out there and play no matter what. And I know this because I've seen him play hurt. I've seen him play sick. He's a guy who doesn't want to sit out. He wants to be out there with his teammates. So I know right now that he's got to be absolutely devastated.
It's got to be tough, like the psyche of the team, because the Pop news obviously was devastating. We're all bummed about that, but although news seems to be good that he's coming back. But and now the Wemby stuff. Like, what is this? Nobody asked for this.
God, it's like that year, 96, 97, where everybody's hurt and we get Timmy Duncan out of it.
Turned out pretty good.
Yeah, it turned out pretty well.
Everybody was hurt.
Yeah, so, you know, it's just one of those things. I mean, look at what's happening around with other teams around the league. You get snake bitten for a little while, and somehow you've got to find your way out of it. But with our organization, you know, I think that our guys, the mentality is next man up. You're going to go out there. You're still going to battle, and you're still going to play with a lot of pride. So I don't expect our guys to give up. I still expect them to come out and play hard, and I expect our organization to still try to continue to work behind the scenes to make the right moves to make us better going forward.
This was also just so shocking to me because this is the one dude that was really just playing hard in the All-Star game. All of a sudden, you hear this yesterday. Right. It's like, geez, you can't catch a break. But you mentioned they're not just going to give up, right? The Spurs are 24-29 on the season. They're currently in the 11th seed. I think 3.5 games out of the play-in. Does now the focus shift on the future, or do they still have enough? Do they think they're still going for this year?
That's a great question. I mean, I don't know. I mean, what would you do in this situation?
I think they're good enough to kind of sneak in that play-in, then anything can happen. But then obviously you're missing, like we talked, Biombo is your starting center right now. Like it's a glaring hole.
But you can't tank because you have so many young guys that you're developing, right?
Yeah, like you're setting that culture too.
And they don't want to.
You're setting the culture and you're setting yourself up for the future. So you got to put those guys in a position to grow and learn. And they're going to have extended minutes now with Wemby being out. The ball is going to be in their hands more often than they're used to.
Yeah, and you both know that, you know, you need that playoff experience. That's the one thing that I really think that our roster is lacking. Look at OKC last year, how much that made them better going into this season, that they were able to get to the second round and had some high-pressure games. That helps season guys. You know, you're not going into games next season where you're so raw. You have a feel for high-pressure situations, and I think we need a taste of that. And I was hoping to get a taste of that, especially for Victor this year. So I don't know what happens, to be honest with you. I would like to see our guys play in some high-pressure games coming down the stretch, maybe games where you have to win to get in the play-in game, where you have a playoff-type atmosphere.
It's valuable experience for sure.
Absolutely. And you mentioned you've seen Wemby play hurt. You've seen him play through sickness.
Yeah.
What has been the biggest impression that he's made on you, the difference in year one and year two?
Wow. I mean, just everything, just his mindset, his development. You know, Lou, I tell people all the time that, you know, he's an anomaly as a player. He's not your typical NBA guy. And he's not your typical NBA big either. And you guys probably know what I'm talking about, where he has all the fire and passion that you see in the guards. You know, he wants to be great. He wants to be one of the best ever. And he's going to put the work in. He's a lot like Timmy Duncan, where he's the last guy on the court. You know, it's almost like Pop would say, we have to kick Timmy out of the gym. He'd say, hey, it's time to go home. You know, he has that kind of mentality where he's ultra competitive. He wants to win. He's a little bit of a throwback in the sense where, like he said, going in the All-Star game, he's not there to make friends. It's not about chummy and all the shugs and the, you know, I want to be your pal. It's not that type of thing. He wants to bury you, and that's his mentality. And you see that a lot more this season as opposed to last, where, you know, that first year you're trying to kind of feel your way around the league. the second year, you feel like you really belong. And then that third year, you're more of a true vet out there. So you can see that kind of mentality come across this year.
Yeah.
I think it doesn't feel like that long ago, although it feels like he's been in the community forever. But, he gets drafted. He shows up in San Antonio. It was hot as hell that day. He's got a cowboy hat on. And then you guys have a dinner. So it's you, Timmy, Manu, Wemby, David.
Yeah.
Who calls for that, and who talks the most?
And who pays for that?
And who pays? Does Pop pay for that?
That was all Spurs because we were in the back.
Cheapos.
Yeah, you're right. So we were back at Chef's table, having dinner back there, and in the other room was Pop and RC and Brian Wright, and those guys with Victor's parents and his brother and sister with his family. So that was a Spurs thing, and you know how the Spurs are. So you bring them in. You bring a lot of the older players around and just try to welcome them and just kind of see what type of young man he is. But we were all kind of surprised because he was peppering us with questions.
Okay.
And at that point you kind of realize, and just sitting there talking with him, that he's got a different mentality. He's a guy who's really ultra focused. He's not concerned about anything away from the court. He's concerned about getting his rest. I mean, you can't call
the 9 o'clock thing.
Can't call the kid can't call him after 9 o'clock. Now he's getting his sleep. He's reading before the games. That reminds me of Big Dave. Big Dave was always reading like Macworld. Yeah. He'd be on the train table.
Like the computer?
Yes.
Oh God.
You'd be like, big fella, what are you doing? We got a game. There's a scouting report. Big Dave's reading Macworld. Right. So he's like that in that sense where he's just a completely different player than what you see coming out of maybe the American ranks.
God, I love that.
It's crazy. And you obviously played with two great big men, Tim Duncan, David Robinson. How do you compare them to a Wemby? And is there any doubt Wemby, which is crazy to even ask, could we be better than them?
No, that's not crazy.
It's not crazy. It's crazy that's not crazy.
No, that's not crazy at all. At all. I think he has all the ingredients to be better than those guys. But that's those guys. We can't demean what they did because
they set a high bar.
Those guys were absolutely amazing. I say all the time that David and Timmy never read the Superstar Handbook. They were great teammates. They came out. They practiced hard every day. They cared about the guy left and right of them, and it wasn't all about them. And so that's what made them superstars and great teammates, in their own right, besides just being phenomenal players. But Victor, I don't think you can really compare him to them. He's a completely different animal than those two guys are. He has the same type of mindset, but just his toolbox. His length, his skill, he has a little bit of both of them and more.
It's like a hybrid of all the best parts.
Right.
So we look at the league. We obviously want to be quick to point out who's going to be the best player in the league. Is that what we're seeing? Who am I asking?
Well, I feel like he is. I feel like he's on his way. And, we keep forgetting he's 21. He turned 21 in January.
That's ridiculous.
Are you kidding me? So, and to have that mindset where his mentality is way beyond his years. He's got the mentality of somebody who's 30 years old, where he's focused, he knows what he wants to achieve, and he's got a plan. Where a lot of guys are coming in and they go, I want to be really good. I want to be an all-star. I want to be the best player. But they don't really have the framework in place. This young man does.
And give him the next 6 months, by the way, to beef up a little bit. I'll say it now. He will be the best player in the NBA next season.
And what if, hear me out, because right now we have to have the stupid conversation, LeBron versus MJ. We've been doing it our whole lives. It makes me want to hit my head in a wall. But 10 years from now, 15 years from now, I know, is Wemby going to be a part of that at some point? That's kind of hard to think about.
Early.
I think you don't compare them to those two guys, right? You compare them to Big Dave. You compare them to Akeem. You compare him to Wilt Chamberlain.
Okay.
Because his numbers and what he's going to do statistically is going to be more like Wilt, I think, than anybody, where he's going to have 30, 20, 10 blocks, 5, 6 steals. We've already seen the 5x5 games. We've seen triple doubles with blocks already. And so he's going to be in a position, if he plays for enough years, where I think he's going to be a guy who has maybe multiple quadruple doubles.
Wilt, he might have 101 points in the game. Lou doesn't believe it.
Well, for him to be a great player, you got to have a great supporting cast, right? And Spurs acquired De'Aaron Fox before the trade deadline. Do you see that as a long-term 1-2 punch? Because, you know, you also have the emergence of Stephon Castle, who's also given great minutes. That's going to be a great player in this league to come.
Steph Castle is a monster.
Bigger than I think.
Yeah, he's bigger.
He's huge.
When you see him up close, I call him a mini Kawhi, you know, because he's got that same kind of build, maybe an inch or two shorter, but same type of player. Matter of fact, I saw Kawhi's very first practice as a rookie, and I remember looking at him. I said, God, the guy's got he's got a big body, long arms, but he couldn't shoot outside the paint. This kid can do all that, and he's got that same type of build. So you throw him, you talked about De'Aaron Fox, who has been already an amazing pickup for us. Just a different type of mindset where you're fearless down the stretch. The ball is in his hands late in the fourth quarter. You feel good. You feel good about your chances, both he and Chris Paul. But going forward, De'Aaron Fox is a guy that I have no doubt, if he stays in San Antonio, that's going to be a combination that's going to be extremely difficult to deal with.
And so you add Fox. Castle is probably the rookie of the year. He's had a great year.
Yeah, not probably.
He's the rookie of the year. Is this a situation where you now move CP3 to the bench to give Castle more opportunity, or do you continue to play them together? Like, how do you see that playing out?
Yeah, that's going to be a problem for Mitch Johnson and his staff to figure out, right? Because I mean, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. What do you do in this situation if you get to a point where you're not going to make the playoffs and you can see it on the horizon? What do you do? Are you going to continue to run Chris Paul into the ground, Harrison Barnes into the ground, or are you going to give those guys a little bit of rest and maybe they come back next year, continue to mentor our guys, and then you give Steph Castle a little bit more seasoning at that 1-2 spot, give him more minutes, because that's been a big dilemma right now, trying to get Steph Castle out there on the court and continue to develop him.
You played in a couple All-Star games. One was in overtime. The other was a win by the East, I think double digits.
Yeah.
This year, the conversation started immediately with all the changes and whether we liked it or hated it or what was it. What do you think needs to be fixed about All-Star, the game itself?
You know, that's a hard question. Chandler talked about what Victor brought, that competitiveness, you know, and I think that's just it. It's just the competitiveness. When I played back in my day, right? Like the winner's share was like $15,000, right? The losers was like 10. And we wanted that 15. Like we wanted that extra 5, but more importantly, I think we wanted the bragging rights. Like we beat the East, or that's what we were thinking about. I don't know if that's gone now. I mean, at some point, guys have to care. You have to care, and you have to give the fans what they want as well. They want to see the battle. They want to see the struggle. They want to see All-Stars really going at it, not just running around throwing lobs and sheepishly running down the court because you know that was a BS play and no one sat there and stopped you or tried to stop you. You know, where's the competitive fire? That's the biggest thing, and I don't know how you light that under guys when right now everybody's getting everything they want. Everybody's making a ton of money. I don't know how you light that competitive fire, because that's what's missing.
Yeah.
The gimmicky stuff is the commissioner trying to come up with something because they understand that competitive fire isn't there like it used to be.
We need more Wemby and SGA type.
It's just got to come down to pride. You know, I've never been an All-Star. I've been close a few times, and I would give my left arm to play in an All-Star game.
Yeah,
because
there you have it.
It's something that you want to have on your resume. It's something that you want to take pride in your career. And at this point, like we said, these guys make a ton of money. That's going to be in place. At some point, there has to be a separation. Somebody has to say, you know what, I'm different from the rest of the group. I'm the best player on the floor. And then you start getting the competitive juices flowing, but it just seems like that's not a concern to these guys.
Yeah, and that's just it. It's just an All-Star is just another notch on the belt, right? It's just on your resume. It used to be the best pickup game in the world, and now it's not, because whether it's they're making so much money or whether they're scared to get hurt, whether they're more focused on finishing the season strong. I respect Adam Silver for trying these different formats, and now you hear the whole world versus USA thing.
Sure.
There's all these different ideas. I love the one-on-one tournament, but then that doesn't guarantee that they're going to even play hard one-on-one. So I love that they're trying to make All-Star Weekend a thing again. Because I remember, when I was watching you guys, it was like the highlight of the year, like the dunk contest, the game. It was awesome. It's lost that a lot.
Bring somebody with a Michael Kobe mentality back to the game.
An assassin.
And one guy who just sparks everybody.
I know.
And but also the league has to share responsibility in where the game is as well. Like we just watched 23 total minutes of basketball being played, right? Like, cool, we love our entertainers and all of that, but let's get back to the core of what makes this thing special. It's the basketball. It's the being competitive. Like, let's cut some of the photo shoots down. Let's cut some of the
too much hoopla.
Yeah, let's cut some of the activations down, some of the hoopla. And on Sundays, let's focus on basketball, and we might get a better product out of it.
Like, think about if you're Evan Mobley or if you're Sengun, you make an All-Star game for your first time. They played 6 minutes.
Right.
It's more. I saw Kevin Hart more than I saw the All-Stars.
Right. No,
it's crazy.
I totally agree. And then you want to go out there and you want to put up, you want to go out there and you want to have a good performance. You want to put up good numbers, right? So you only get 6 minutes out there. You're sitting around most of the time.
Yeah.
That's not really the All-Star experience, right? You want to go out there and you want to mix it up with everybody.
100%.
I don't know that we were prepared either as viewers. Like, I didn't know that there was going to be so much break time and just stuff. That was weird.
If you told me Cade Cunningham wasn't there, I'd believe you. Like,
And they with no clock, you got to eat up
didn't he
time.
block
We
Wemby?
basically watched 3 halftimes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they had 2 15-minute breaks, actual halftime, so guys were standing
too
around
much.
getting cold. So that part isn't on the players. That's why I say the league
Right.
has to share responsibility in where the All-Star game has gone. Let's sit down for a second. If we wanted to be competitive on Sundays, we're playing basketball, nothing else, nothing more. The rest of the weekend, we can do whatever. But on Sundays, let's focus on the game.
Yep.
Boom. We're not going anywhere. Sean's sticking around. We got more Run It Back on the other side.
Run it up, then run it back.
12 seconds left in regulation. Into Sean Elliott. He fires the three and hits it! San Antonio takes the lead. 6 3-pointer today for Sean Elliott.
The most impressive part is that big-ass elbow brace you had on. Looked like it was
That's
made
from
of rubber.
all the shots I was taking, Chandler. You know something about that, too.
That's right.
He's
And
like, I
so does Lou. Lou knows about that.
Okay, so that
He's
is
wearing a bigger brace than I was, maybe.
that's 99. That is the Memorial Day miracle. Is it true contractually that video has to be shown anytime you agree to do
No,
anything?
it's not true. But yeah,
Sean?
but my guys, if they want dinner on the road 2 or 3 times a year, they better show it.
They have to show it, by the way. So that is like, I was a lowly intern at that game, and it was such a moment that I remember like it was yesterday. So for you, what was the thing that stood out the most of that moment, and what went on after that?
I think it was really satisfying because I think throughout my career there were lots of times where I wanted the ball late in the game and didn't get it, right?
Fair.
So I was always one where I was always complaining because I didn't get the ball, right? So that game, actually in warm-ups, I went through my routine where you shoot 25 threes and I missed 2 that bounced in and out, and then my one miss that day bounced in and out. So it felt like, and these guys know, when you're out there, didn't matter where you caught the ball, didn't matter what was happening. If you just let it go, it was going to go in. And so that's what I remember most vividly about that game.
So good.
And Sean, you played with Tim Duncan his first 4 seasons, including winning the title, as we just seen. What made Timmy so special?
Everything. Timmy was one of the guys who you could show him something, Lou. You could do something your whole life, and you could show him how to do it, and 10 minutes later, he's doing it better than you ever did. Right? That's the type of guy he is. But what I most admired about him, he was a crazy competitor. He never had to beat his chest or tell any. He never proclaimed like, I'm this guy. I'm the best player. Never even talked. Just let his game do the talking. And he was, to me, I also appreciate that he was fundamentally sound on both ends of the court. Great defender, obviously. Didn't get a lot of credit for that. But just a tremendous offensive player because of his footwork, his technique, and just his sheer determination to win.
And because he was so quiet and he did things on brand like that, like he didn't talk trash, he wasn't very boisterous. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like he's underappreciated? Do you feel like he gets his flowers?
No question. No question. Because I think we're in a society where we appreciate people yelling and screaming in the other guy's face, and we think that's toughness. Right? We don't appreciate the quiet guys, the assassins, because you got to be afraid of the guy who's not saying anything. The quiet guy who's walking around, that's the guy you're scared of. The guy who's yelling and screaming, a lot of that is bluster and fluff and just trying to posture. Timmy was none of that.
And you hear him as mostly a quiet, laid-back dude, but we've heard some stories. You know, Boogie told us a great story. Kevin Garnett has heard the stories about him talking trash. Do you have a good story that stands out, or he's not that quiet of a guy when he talks a little bit?
No, I mean, the whole Boogie Cousins thing, that was a whole thing that blew up too, and that wasn't good for me either. It wasn't good for DeMarcus, and you know, I think when I look at that situation, I was actually calling that game, and Timmy, you know, DeMarcus Cousins got in Timmy's face, and then I said something about it, and then DeMarcus and I went back and forth, and I felt like, first off, I think I maybe overstepped as an announcer and got on DeMarcus a little too hard, you know, trying to defend Timmy because I love Timmy, he's my guy, but Timmy, again, he let his game do the talking, you know, and that's what I appreciated most about him.
Yeah.
So 2016, Timmy's watching games, and he texts you, "You look like a burnt earthworm with glasses."
And I still look like that.
That is rude. What does he? Is this a practice for him to be texting you rude things?
Yeah, he'll text me, you know, every 3 or 4 games,
Sure.
especially if things aren't going well. If I say something that he appreciates, like I say, Victor's got to run the middle of the floor. He's like, he'll text me, he'll say it again. But if we, you know, we do something down the stretch that he doesn't like, he'll text me, or if I'm always taking shots at him too,
sure.
right? Like
Yep.
talking about his age, and so
His style now is
his
interesting.
style is interesting, but more so his age. Like we had a World War II veteran who was 100 years old on the court the other day, and we recognized him. And I said, rumor has it that when he was growing up, he had Timmy's poster on his wall, you know. And Timmy's like, "How do you get away with that crap? You know, you're older than I am."
Seriously.
And so, you know, he gets after me that way, but he's no, he's. I mean, Timmy's he's a true gem of a person. I mean, forget the basketball stuff, the stuff that he's done for his home, things he does for the San Antonio community. He's a tremendous human being.
I know we want to talk a little bit about Pop and you playing for him and what that's like, but what's the latest? Is he how's he doing?
You know, he's just working hard every day to get back to normal is what we hear right now. And you know, if you know anything about Pop, he's relentless. He's absolutely relentless. You know, when I'm out on the road and I go to the workout room, half the time, you walk in there and Pop's in there.
Every
you know?
time.
He's lifting weights. He's on the treadmill. He's got this funny routine where he throws his arms up and
he does the medicine ball thing.
Yeah,
like,
he's
what are
doing
you
all
doing?
kinds of wacky stuff, and you're like, man, and he's in there all the time, and so he's just absolutely relentless, and so I have no question that he's going to get back to being Pop. It's just a matter of if he wants to get back on the sidelines or not, because I think if it's up to him, then he's going to make it. He's going to do whatever he wants to do.
DeMar DeRozan, who's a great friend of mine, speaks so highly of Pop. And 17 years in the league, I've never had a conversation with Pop. Never had an opportunity to interact with him. Give me one of your best Pop stories.
I mean, I think there are way too many. You know, the biggest thing about Pop Lou is that he's got this outside kind of persona where he's all gruff and tough, but underneath it, boy, he's so soft. He's a big softy underneath all that, and that comes across with the players. Like when the lights are on, and when you're in practice, he's going to tell you he wants you to do something, and when the popcorn's popping, the lights are on, if you don't do it, he's going to be in you, in you. I mean, there have been times where he's like the drill sergeant from Full Metal Jacket. I don't know if you've ever seen that. He gets on guys, and a lot of guys can't handle that. But then after the game's over, we're all going to team dinner, and he's like, "Hey, Chandler, you know," and he comes by, and he's super sweet to you, and he cares about your family. He's going to ask about your kids, your mom. You know, he's a completely different type of guy. You know, keeps you off guard, but he just really cares about his players.
You talk about the game planning. One of my rare starts was in San Antonio. I started a game, and like one of the first or second plays of the game, I pump fake like I usually do, get Danny Green in the air for 3 shots. Danny Green comes out immediately, like we hadn't been playing 20 seconds. And I looked over, I said, that must have been on the scouting report.
Yeah. Oh, there's no question. He's done that. There was one play in Boston years ago, and I mean, it was loud. It was really loud in the arena, and one of our guys made a mistake. I'm not going to say who it was, and it was at the point when Pop started to yell at him, it all of a sudden got quiet, and he said, "Hey, take your head out of your ass." And everybody, 15 rows could hear it. The whole crowd was like chuckling, you know. But that's how Pop is. Like I said, you better be ready to play when the lights are on.
And it doesn't matter if you're the one option, the 12th man. He's coaching you the same exact way.
And that's why we've been good for so many years with him. It's accountability, right? Like you guys have been on teams where the coach won't say anything to the star,
100%.
and then all the way down the bench, guys are like, well, if our superstar is not going to play and he can make all these mistakes, well, then I can do the same thing too. It kind of becomes insidious and it rots from the head down. Not Pop. If you're Tim, Tony, Manu, David Robinson, if you make that same mistake that the 7th or 8th guy makes, you're going to hear about it.
My last question for you is, you play with Steve Kerr in college at Arizona.
Yeah.
When you're playing with him, is that something where you see, okay, this guy's got potential to be a great coach one day, or is this like you guys just pounding beers?
I thought you were going to say a great player. I was going to say, hell no.
Don't be ridiculous. But like we asked people that play with JJ Redick, is this something that the writing's on the wall and you see with a guy like Steve Kerr?
No, because I wasn't thinking that way back then.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't thinking that, guys that I played with, Avery Johnson, maybe I thought he was going to be a coach. Steve Kerr, I wasn't thinking he was going to be a coach. I didn't think Steve wanted to do that, to be honest with you. He never told me that he wanted to coach. Vinny Del Negro, other guys, Doc Rivers. You just didn't have that mentality where you thought they were going to become coaches. But Steve had all the pedigree out there with Lute, with Phil Jackson, with so many great coaches, with Pop, obviously. And so he's always had a great mind for the game. So when he took the job at Golden State, I knew that Steve was going to do great things.
That's awesome.
Sean, I miss you guys. Continue the great work, sir. You're doing a wonderful job.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good to see you, big timer.
Oh, yeah,
she used to pass cards over me to the play-by-play guy.
And get y'all water.
And now you're like, Michelle Beadle's coming. Everybody's nervous.
Shut up. His entourage is waiting. That's why we have to go to break now. We'll be back on the other side.
Run it over, run it back, yeah, run it